Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the 2020 BSI Standards Conference and Awards. Thank you all for joining us again. For those of you who were not able to join us yesterday, the recordings of those sessions will be available soon. And again, a special thanks to all of our speakers and our panelists and our exhibitors for giving up their time to share their expertise with all of us. We hope you've been enjoying the mobile app and the web platform that we developed to support the delivery of this conference, and that you've had no trouble accessing the session this morning. Some tips and reminders to help you get the most out of today. The mobile app will allow you to create a profile, and I've been checking the app this morning. I've seen many hundreds of you have done so. It allows you to build your own schedule, read about exhibitors and speakers, and also that's the place where you can interact with other participants in the conference. So please don't forget to complete your profile in the app. The guidebook web platform will have all of the details about the conference program, the speakers, the exhibitors. You can build your own schedule on that as well. For the best experience, we recommend you access the live session links via the web platform. And during the live sessions, you can interact via the Zoom Q&A and chat functions, and the hosts for each of the meetings will be telling you which of those two you should use to communicate during that session. For this opening session, feel free to post any comments in the chat, but if you've got any questions for us, do so in the Q&A facility. Now, because of the number of participants, your video and mic will be off, except in the Knowledge Marketplace meetings. If you've not done so already, please contact the exhibitors you'd like to visit so you can pre-book your 5-minute one-to-one chat with them during the Knowledge Marketplace. We've got some excellent exhibitors this time. We're really pleased to see all of you. We've got the Office for Product Safety and Standards team from BAYS. They're there. The Knowledge Transfer Network is there. We've got lots of BSI groups, including Standards Assist, where you can get assistance joining and onboarding onto BSI committees. You can hear more about the Commonwealth Standards Network and also about the Trade and Regulatory Policy team that are working so hard in the run-up to the end of the transition period, about which you can hear more during the session tomorrow. Remember, only those with appointments will receive links for exhibitor meetings, so please do go on and book those appointments. Now, this Zoom session will end shortly, but we've got a jam-packed agenda for you today in the 6 consecutive sessions. Up first are 4 sessions from our World of Standards stream. We start with developing and managing organisational knowledge. We're then profiling the new standardisation management system standard. We have a session for you on quality management in construction. And then we're really excited to be debuting the BSI Flex, the new standards deliverable from BSI, the dynamic standards offering, which I think a lot of you will be really interested in. Now, these are followed by 2 sessions from our Building Back Better stream, starting with psychological health at work, a pandemic that we're still struggling to manage, and finally with the future of work and disability inclusion. Now, for the first time this year, the conference also incorporates the BSI Consumer Forum Conference, which takes place at 2 p.m. today. And that's a great chance to learn more about consumer concerns and how standards are influenced by consumers. The theme of the Consumer Conference is the virtual consumer living online in 2020, as so many of us are. There's another opportunity today to visit exhibitors during the Knowledge Marketplace session at 12:30. And there will be live meetings for those who've pre-booked, or you can explore the virtual stands yourself via the mobile app or the web platform. So we hope you enjoy today's program and look forward to seeing you for the rest of the day and tomorrow for the final day of the conference. Tomorrow we'll have more fantastic opportunities for you. We have a special session, as I said, on UK CA marking and the future of trade and regulatory policy in the UK after the end of the transition. We also have the 2020 Standards Awards, and we have a keynote and question and answer with ISO's Secretary General tomorrow, which we're very much looking forward to. Thank you for your time, and we hope you have an enjoyable day.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to this session on developing and managing organisational knowledge. This session will explore how organisations have used the knowledge management standard ISO 30401 to stay resilient. I am pleased to introduce our panellists. Ron Young, who is CEO of Knowledge Associates Cambridge and a member of BSI's Knowledge Management Committee KMS1, Paul Hearn from the European Commission, and Gianluigi Baldesi from the European Space Agency. Please post any questions using the Q&A function below. Now I'll hand over to Ron to get us started.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this session, of course. In this session today, developing and managing organizational knowledge, we're going to have 3 speakers, and each of us is going to give our perspective on knowledge management. And then after that 30 minutes, we are going to have a question and answer session and further discuss, so we can go much deeper into the session. So let me now share my few slides. So let me briefly introduce our speakers. Well, first of all, Helena has kindly introduced me. I started Knowledge Associates in 1995, and we're really focusing on research into knowledge management, and innovation. And yes, I became involved with BSI committee work on standard development in 2000, and I chaired the BSI Knowledge Management Committee standard development for ISO 30401, which I'll talk a little more about in a moment, which was published in November 2018. Together today, we also have Paul Hearn. Paul has worked with the European Commission in Brussels for 22 years. In fact, I think that's when I first met Paul. And he's had various positions of responsibility in European scientific research. Paul is unapologetically from the Connect School of Knowledge Management. And his work has always had the sort of human connection at its core. Paul is going to talk a little bit about KM history and EC and the work he's currently doing with new platforms. And Gianluigi, he is the senior manager at the European Space Agency. Gianluigi Baldesi has had actually over 15 years of technology, leadership and experience in assessing and executing complex projects for future aerospace missions in a cross-cultural environment. He is in charge of leading the corporate knowledge management activities and in coordinating corporate strategic planning for the agency. So he will be talking about the ESA perspective for KM and the work he's currently doing with open innovation as well. So it's going to be a very exciting session. I'm looking forward to the different perspectives. So let me start with my perspective for the next 10 minutes, and then I'll hand over to Paul. So I would like to start by just reminding us all that if we're looking at knowledge, if we're looking at developing and managing organizational knowledge, we have to look, of course, at what creates knowledge, and what helps us to transfer it and apply it and retain the critical knowledge better. And of course, to do that, we have to have effective communications of information to turn into knowledge. We have to have effective collaboration, because what we've learned with team collaboration is that an effective collaborative team can create new knowledge very, very fast. One of the fastest ways is through effective collaboration indeed. And effective collaborative teams learn so much faster from one another. This all naturally occurs, and we're looking for what naturally occurs. They learn so much faster and create new knowledge together. And as a result of effective communications and collaborations and learning and knowledge, so add creativity and co-creativity in that collaborative environment, so we can much, much better develop innovative products and services. So that's really naturally what it's about. And for me, I became interested in standards and the ISO standards because they are principles-led, and I'd like to say just a little bit about that. You know, in all of our organizations today, even with the best people, they change, they leave, they come, they go, they retire. There's high mobility. There is change. Even though it's driven by people, people change. Even if we have the most innovative processes in the organization, they change over time and improve. Or our dynamic projects, they change. The speed of communications is such, the information and technologies are such that technologies are changing rapidly. And what I like about the ISO standards is that they have in recent years become more principles-led. And principles do not change as rapidly. I mean, in its true sense, principles are timeless. But if we look at the practical business principles, they are likely to change over time, but much, much slower than people and processes and projects and technologies and the like. And so that's why if we understand the principles and we can apply the principles, then of course, as people and processes and technologies improve and change, we can adapt them to better apply the principles. That's what I particularly like about this approach with the knowledge management standard. But also I am interested in the cluster, as I mentioned in the beginning, of communication standards and learning and collaboration and innovation standards that work together. They are interdependent. Of course, I can very briefly mention the ISO knowledge management standard was developed in 2018. But alongside that, for better information communication, better cybersecurity, better information asset management, we have the 27,000 series. We have quality management underpinning. We would require quality knowledge. We have the collaborative business relationships standard, ISO 44001. We have the asset management standard, which looks at both tangible assets and intangible assets. And we have the innovation management standard series. Now, I've just mentioned the standards like ISO 30401 because one means a requirement standard, but they can be a family of standards. Indeed, the ISO 27000 is a series of standards which has guidelines, terminology, guidelines to implement the requirements and so on. So there's a great deal of integration that can go on here. And that's also what interests me greatly, because when we're looking at the organization to find better ways to manage knowledge and innovate and better collaborate, we can now actually integrate several standards at a later stage because they all actually have the same structure. And if we look at the ISO 30401 standard, the one that we're most interested in today, this is just a summary slide that I've taken from a BSI webinar that we did in June of this year, which actually explains in more depth the standard components. And you will see that the boxes are numbered 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They are the section numbers of the standards because all management system standards have these same section numbers. And sections 1, 2, and 3 are the introduction, the principles, the terminology perhaps. So that's what 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 means. And you can see here that the summary requirements, there are in the KM standard, around 50 requirements and 8 principles. You can see how this in fact is part of a common process which also embeds the plan, do, check, and act as well. So the importance of the standard and the structures enables us to integrate. And I wanted to finally show you this slide that we have used for many years now, which really just helps companies start to look at where they actually are right now, or where perhaps they'd like to be. The horizontal is explaining what I started to say, that we need effective communications of information, we need to collaborate better, we need to find the best ways to accelerate our learning and manage our knowledge. And that knowledge which is critical, the critical knowledge assets, how we can better work with that, both operationally and in a transformative way, to enable us to better manage our innovation. And of course, vertically, it's showing that we need to be looking at this and looking at our strategies, methods, tools, and techniques and standards in the dimensions personal, team, organization, inter-organization, and global. So I hope that's a good starting point, just to briefly mention the knowledge management standard and how it can work effectively within a cluster that deal with effective communications of information, collaboration, asset management, and innovation management. So I'm now going to hand over to Paul, if I may.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today. So I'm calling in from Brussels, from the European Commission, and my name is Paul Hearn. I work at the European Commission Joint Research Centre, which has offices in various European countries, but the headquarters in Brussels. And I'm a senior expert in knowledge management at the Joint Research Centre. I'm very happy to see you all today. And I'm just going to spend a few minutes giving you a little bit of a, Ron has given you, the state of standards today, but he asked me to run through a little bit how we got here. And so I just wanted to share something that's a little bit fun. I often do when I speak with Ron. This is us back in the year 2000, Ron. And I'm just considerably younger, just joined the European Commission, and we had this mission to try to create a kind of European movement in knowledge management. And I was very happy to meet Ron at the time and some other great colleagues, Anne and Dan, yes. And we started to get serious about knowledge management back in the year 2000 in the European Commission, and started to do a team. In fact, it was 1999. And I'll just run through this really quickly because it's quite a lot of fun. So we started this team, and we lucky enough to get quite a bit of research money, and we launched 40 research projects on knowledge management with 400 organizations. And one of those, a little one in there you can see somewhere, called Lever, was one that where I met Ron basically in 2000. And Lever was the kind of embryon of this knowledge asset management work. We had a big conference, first ever in 2000. We launched the first KM Global Community of Practice, 2001, 25,000 practitioners. We did some research, further research. Then we started our standards work, and I met again with Ron and the sciend, the European standards body work, and got in touch with BSI in 2003. And so on, so on, so on, so. Then we got some awards, and then we did a first community-generated book on knowledge management from these co-written by these 25,000 people. Then there were more and more committees, more and more workshops, and then in 2018, the standard that we're all here today for was launched, and to great success. So that's kind of, I just wanted to say, good things take a long time. That was my first message, right? So it's been a long time in the making. Second thing is that I wanted to say that we haven't stopped, and so basically all the way along, I've also been working a lot on learning. And today we launched a new platform, a European platform, just today, this morning. So it's a big day, called the EU Academy, which is basically bringing together all the learning resources the European institutions into a single platform with a single search, and we've got some really great ideas about how to take that forward. So that's me and my colleague we're in the spotlight today. So there you go. So basically that's a little run through where we are and where we came from, as far as we can see. But I just wanted to say that, you know, we had a couple of pre-meetings. It's very, very interesting with Luigi and Ron. You know, I'm really intrigued by the fact that even though we've been at this for 20 years, Ron and others, you know, it seems to me that there's this kind of resurgence or renaissance of knowledge management right now. You know, the fact that we're still talking about it in this conference and others. I know there was a little bit of maybe the trough of disillusionment around 2014, 15, where everybody went on to the next big thing. But we're all back again. And why are we back? Well, I think we're back because, you know, some things don't change. I think that in reality, I mean, there's a book on the left here, If Only We Knew What We Know, 2012, Cardell, and there's an article just 2 weeks ago, Why You Don't Really Know What You Know in MIT Technology Review. I mean, basically, the fundamental problem we have as human beings is we don't know what we know, right? And this is at the heart of the kind of paradox of, let's say, philosophical abstract paradox of how you then apply not knowing what you know to an organizational or business or competitive setting, right? And there are all sorts of explanations, like, for example, the illusion of explanatory depth. You know, for example, and our children know this because when they get to age 3 or something, they ask us why about 10 times. And when we get to the third why, we don't know the answer, right? So basically, we're kind of in this illusion of knowing, right? We think we know, but as soon as we start to explain what we know, we don't know. And then since we can't get very far with that, we have this phenomenon of contagious understanding. So we basically pick up on things that other people say that we think they know, and we make them our own. We inherit them and make them our own, but we haven't checked, and we can't actually check whether what they know is knowable. So, you know, it's very philosophical, and I don't want to go in too much philosophy around it, but basically, in reality, what I have seen throughout all of my work, and as Ron introduced me as a very kind of human in machine in knowledge management from the Connect School, is that we really do need, since we don't know what we know, we need to be able to be aware of that, but also connect to others that may know, right? So this is this idea of transactive memory. So we need to be able to, in any particular situation, either be able to act or know who can help us to act. Okay, so this is the kind of fundamental game that's going on, or going on with individual and collective knowledge. And I think that the reason why we're all back is because this is a bad picture of a washing machine on a spin cycle on the left, right? The fact is, we've got this individual and collective knowledge problem, and we've put it into a washing machine on a very high spin, right? And technology is spinning us fast. You know, information opportunities are spinning us faster. Okay, so we've just information overload, etc. We all know these things, but the fact is that social opportunities are on a very slow cycle. So there's this kind of two speeds going on here. We know that technology takes us ever faster forward, and the information opportunities and artificial intelligence, etc., are able to take us faster. But we are not really very aware of the fact that socially we work quite slowly. Okay, and so when you're trying to apply knowledge management to the organization, it's kind of maybe quite attractive to look at all the technology or information aspects of all of that, but it's quite difficult, and it takes a much longer time to try to uncover and tackle the social opportunities there, right? So I just leave you with a quote, which is that knowledge depends as much on trust and relationships as it does in textbooks and observations. And this is why I'm unapologetically from the Connect School of Knowledge Management, as Ron said, which is basically about putting people and their connections and building trusting organizations at the heart of knowledge management. And I think this is certainly there in lots of aspects of the standards work, and I think it deserves an even greater push in the years ahead. So that's what I wanted to say, and thank you very much. I'm really happy to have a discussion about that a little bit later. Thank you.
And thank you, Paul. Thank you very much for that. I was very intrigued by your term transactive memory as well, and ways to help us all better act. I'd like to follow that up with you a bit later. And especially trusting organizations at the heart. So I'm now going to call on Gianluigi Baldisi from the European Space Agency and get Gianluigi's perspective.
Good morning, Ron. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the kind invitation. I'm sharing my screen.
Yes.
I hope you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's say it's a pleasure to be the last one, so I can take. You point out a few important messages about the ISO, especially on the ISO, on the principle side, and also this social opportunity that have a slow pace compared to technology, and this is very interesting because I would like to stress this in my presentation. So here, I would like to give you the perspective of what we are doing at the European Space Agency and why knowledge is important for us. So first of all is really what are the challenges and the needs that we are trying to tackle with the knowledge management initiative that we have, which is set also the perimeter, okay? Because of course knowledge is a very complex, and in a complex organization, it's let's say can have different declination of knowledge, but for us. Knowledge encompasses 4 areas, and the first one is really on the project side. So it's really what is the challenge, what we learn from the past project and activity. As you know, the European Space Agency has been working almost 50 years on space activity, so we have a huge heritage of space activity and what we have learned from the past. The second area is really related to the people. And this really, as many institutions, we are facing quite an important retirement wave. So a lot of our senior experts are leaving in the next years. So what we can do to retain the core knowledge of the agency, that one was really an important kick of the knowledge management in the agency, but also found subject matter expert in such a complex world. The other, let's say, group of challenge are related to, let's say, to use a common language and terminology across the whole agency, which is, I think, it's a challenge that is experienced by many organizations, which results also when we have a common language and common terminology, we can help the access of existing information and data in the organization. Finally, we have also many libraries, so which is somehow our sort of access to external knowledge, and what the library service can do in order to facilitate the identification of good resources to support our research. But last but not least, we have also a lot of space from the library, imagine whole style, and we are trying to see how we can modernize, rejuvenate this place in order to stimulate collaboration and creativity. That knowledge management was done in the agency since many years. However, there was in 2017 a good, say, it was a good moment because we had many many input coming after a ministerial conference that we had in Lucerne, where there was a clear reference of the knowledge management, the ISA convention. There was at that time the ISO 9001, and also we were somehow inspired by the new standard on knowledge management, but we received it as a draft at that time. We had a new chief digital officer, which was pushing a lot of the ISA digital agenda for space 2016. And we had also where somehow some of the challenges that I showed you in the previous slide were highlighted. Therefore, we managed to launch this activity as ISA knowledge management. You see, we have a nice visual. And what was our journey here? Was in the first 2 years, in 2017 and 2018, we published the policy. However, what we did is also we launched a lot of pilots, and this is also reflecting what Paul was saying. Leveraging technology, we're able to really to launch a lot of pilots. Then we had 2 years, which we are ending right now, on focus on the top priority, and also reminding what are the user needs. So why we do knowledge management is very important for us. What is the next step? Is first of all consolidate the process and the tool. So be sure that somehow the seed that we have been different groups in the different directorate of the agency, and also to have really a common view, and a common based on the principle of the knowledge management policy that we clearly set. And for the next couple of years, we want to focus on the external collaboration. And I have a slide on the call that we are about to launch. And finally, what we see beyond 2022, it's really to build up on the culture of openness and sharing, which we are building. And also, the other important point for us is to serve not only for the internal purpose to make more effective, but also how we can serve the space ecosystem, especially in Europe, providing knowledge resources. So in 2017, there was a lot of reflection how we organize the knowledge management. What is the right governance? And what I found it extremely interesting is, of course, we were inspired by the ISO standard knowledge management. And for us, as you see, we have let's say the team which have the pleasure to lead, which is the corporate knowledge management, which is somehow attached directly to the Director General in the program and the policy department, coordination department, which is detached by any other administration area like HR or IT, facility management, the chief digital officer. Of course, we have a strong relation with them, and we really coordinate all the activities that are happening in different directories using, this is very important for us, the knowledge management point of contact, which lead the activity of knowledge management in the directory. And this way, we can ensure a coherent approach and that the requirements are cascading from the corporate side to the directorate, but also the plan is executed because we have a plan at the corporate level and directorate. What concretely we do? As you, I was explaining to you, we have the top, which is the knowledge from people here, is one of the, let's say, one of the top priority for us, which is really, we have set up this process of knowledge retention. senior expert is about to retire, there is a process that we find in order to analyze what is his knowledge, what are the involving his colleagues and his line manager, and also, let's say, what are the key knowledge, unique knowledge that it's a risk for the agency. And therefore, we together with the expert, we organize a dedicated lecture, and we have different way to ensure that this knowledge is retained and transferred. The second element, which is also, of course, a top priority, of course, on the people, there is also what are the competence of the people, how we can make this competence available, and also how we can support the generation of community of practice using dedicated platform. We're not so creative on this. We have the knowledge portal, which is somehow an internal portal, which is used, which is wiki-based, which is used to stimulate interaction internally. On the lesson learned area here is really the knowledge from the project. So we put it in place, a system where everyone can propose a lesson, and within what we have, this collaborative, the concurrent design facility, which is a facility where all the teams come together, and with all the, let's say, the models which can make available and share across, they can have discussion during the lesson capture event, which normally are done at the project level, where the project manager has a sort of role of validating the lesson. And then this lesson are evaluated by a dedicated board. So this process allows us not only to capture the lesson, but really to make this, to allow the organization to learn on those lessons in order really to concrete, provide, act on what we have learned. Finally, the two other areas which also support. Okay, the library is self-explained, as I said before. I mean, what is in 2020 the new library service? What kind of service have to provide? But also how we can make, let's say, all style library more creative place where we can have in that picture here was a design thinking workshop. Of course, knowledge from information and data are all the part which is related to the foundation, so the taxonomy, but also how we can leverage artificial intelligence to connect the dots, because this is also an important problem in such a large organization when also managing complex project. Is really how we can connect the dots, how the knowledge managers allows to put specialists together from different sectors, from technical, artificial intelligence, blockchain, with experts in procurement, in legal, and so on, so far, so forth. In line with the idea of stimulating external collaboration, we launched a call for ideas, which was using the OSIP, which is called Open Space Innovation Platform, which is a platform that we have been using often lately in order to stimulate interaction, sharing ideas from different people within internal and external. And this is let's say, a campaign which is launched now. It's still open until the end of November, and we are using this platform to, let's say, obtain three main ideas. The first one is what ESA can do for you. So it's a sort of collection of the space ecosystem need, what the agency can do to support businesses. Of course, we have, let's say, many channels to connect this need, but we want to stress from the knowledge management perspective. We ask also company what they can do for us when they know what to do, if they can have any breakthrough idea. And finally, we are very open to do a joint research. So there is opportunity to, for instance, co-finance a PhD students. So far we are receiving quite a few ideas, which is very surprising. So really looking forward to receive more by the end of the month. And happy to, let's say, to reply to any question and to participate on the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you very much, Gianluigi. There are some very interesting perspectives there, and I hope we can now all as a panel go a little deeper in that. And I'm glad, Gianluigi, you introduced the space ecosystem as well, and I'm particularly excited about that and your mention, a brief mention of artificial intelligence and blockchain and what that might have as an effect. And you know, we have the human and we have the machine intelligence to look forward to. Just before we start the panel, I see I would like to make one correction. Tim King just correctly reminded me that the asset management standard is 55,001. I think I may have said 56,001 by mistake. It's 55,001, and it deals with both tangible and intangible asset management. So 3 perspectives there. We have the introduction of a cluster of standards. The standards I briefly mentioned have all appeared in the last 5 or so years, really. They're relatively new standards. And what do the standards do? Well, at least they have identified for us in each standard the key principles, and therefore the requirements that we might be looking to do, and some good practices and things like that to help us. But that's dealing with what we know now, what we've achieved now. I guess one of the things that I was curious to ask Paul initially, if I may, was what exciting work might there be in the future in the European Commission with knowledge and innovation, for example? Can we look forward to anything new coming along shortly from the EC perspective with knowledge and innovation?
Thank you, Ron. So, I mean, the Joint Research Centre, where I work, is the Commission's Science and Knowledge Service. And we took the lead a few years ago, launching quite an innovative knowledge management strategy, which basically put knowledge management at the heart of the Joint Research Centre's strategy. We have 3,000 scientists working on all different areas of policy, from air quality to water quality to smart cities, etc. You can imagine, that was a very, very forward-looking policy, and we've done a lot of operational work to embed it. What I see right now going forward, and it's a great question, what I'm working on and what some of us are working on is we're trying to find a way to, you know, in a typical science organization, I mean, the main assets of scientific work are scientific reports, right? I mean, our scientists love writing, you know, 500-page reports with a full bibliography, publishing scientific papers, etc. Yeah, but we do know that that is only one channel for knowledge and interaction. So what we're working on is multiple channels of knowledge and interaction, I would say, from very micro capsules or small nuggets of knowledge that can be fed into, for example, our e-learning platform, like a 5-minute primer on European air quality standards or something, or a full-blown kind of festival. Yeah, we've done lots of work. We've done lots of work in art galleries, for example, building. I've curated several exhibitions that had knowledge at the heart of that, including in Brussels, in the main art museum. Yeah, so we're trying to look at different ways of you know, knowledge is one thing, but it's how it's packaged and for which purpose, and it's got to be packaged in a way that it can be received, right? And we realized a long time ago that our audience are not just are the scientists, right? So in a way, I think that this is where I see a lot of innovation coming. We've got a big team working on information visualization, data visualization, and we're trying to get closer to the receiver's end of what we can offer, and deliver it in such a way that the receiver can use it, right? I don't know. That would probably be my answer, I guess, Ron.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you, Paul. And Luigi, you're working in the future, clearly. But for the future to become a good future, I'm just wondering what your view might be about KM, how it stimulates creativity, innovation, for example. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, thank you, Ron. I mean, this is the challenge I had, because, you know, of course, as I was picturing, knowledge management, I see as you know, one of the main assets of our organization. I mean, and how we can make this at fruition. You know, it's not really only to have a nice taxonomy or, you know, to connect the dot, but really how we can move forward on this. And what we see, it's really, we have many new initiatives coming up, using, for instance, artificial intelligence to connect the missing dot. And what we're having a lot of fun now is, once we have built all this foundation, to try to, I want to share with you this experience that a few trainees has made. We were launching many databases and so on, and they were able basically to connect all these databases. And they took myself and search all my publication. And they were matching with the organigram of the organization where I was sitting and so on. And they easily discover that somehow I had, let's say, 30 people, just to say a number, very, very close to what I do, on which 60% I've been working closely. So I was co-author, I was working in the same group, and the 40%, which I was not even aware that those exist. And you know, that one was really a mind-blowing for me example, where, you know, the power of connecting this dot and using the model technique can stimulate what Paul was saying, this social interaction, which allows, you know, really to not only to find the good reference in a textbook, but try to go to the person that can explain you faster what is written in that textbook, and providing, you know, another value perspective. So, you know, and we see this, for instance, all this big trend of artificial intelligence. It's working very in the technical area for the R&D, the operation, and the procurement, and already putting all this together. It's already, you see, a very enriching moment. Quantum, blockchain, and because, you know, our organization are structured on a matrix, and a very classic. The mechanical people are here, the software people are here, you know, and with all these new trends, which are very transversal. I mean, this is I see a great role that we can play, and of course, leveraging the fact of, you know, all this new framework, technique, the open innovation, and so on. It's very, very enriching.
Good. Thank you so much. I can see that we've had a few interesting questions coming in now. So let's take a look at the questions. And so we've got David Martin has come in and said, so where do intellectual property rights fit in? Or should these not be real consideration going forward? So I can start off by saying that, to my knowledge, with the innovation management family of products. 56,000 onwards. There is, I'm just looking here, 56,005 is tools and methods for intellectual property management. And 56,006, which has come out as a draft for public evaluation, is tools and methods for strategic intelligence. So I think 56,005 is addressing the intellectual property management as a guidance document anyway. Does anyone else have would like to add to that in terms of intellectual property, and particularly the question which was really around, or should these not be a real consideration going forward, intellectual property rights?
Maybe, if I may, I mean, I would just say that, you know, what my vision for, let's say, the future is that these issues, which are of course extremely important, don't get in the way of the collaboration and cooperation between individuals, right? So I kind of dream of a world where this is really easy to manage by people that don't have to be intellectual property right lawyers, right? So, you know, that you can build your knowledge, your experience, your meetings, your websites, your whatever, you know, in a way that you're sure, in a very simple way, simple and smart way, you're very sure that you're respecting, you know, that you don't have to go through this kind of, be slowed down by the technology should help us to broker and make sure that these types of aspects are being dealt with in the background for us, you know, and we can get on with what we do best, you know. So that would be my kind of hope. I say that because I'm in an organization which you can imagine is full of rules and regulations, and for every possible thing, and a form you need to fill in to get whatever, you know. So I kind of hope that, you know, that one day, if technology can do anything useful for us, it would be that it would basically make all of that work seamlessly in the background, so we can just get on with being human and meeting and connecting and dreaming and creating futures together. Yeah. So sorry for that. It's a bit dreamy answer, but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you, Paul, because at the end of the day, sometimes intellectual property rights are somehow a boundary that we put in order not to share. And the question is, I see that in many occasions they can be very counterproductive also for the organization itself, because, you know, if you are not making the other people aware of what you know, what you can do, you will be less in demand, you know. And this is you know, I don't know whether it's a story of the old dinosaurs or, you know, but at the end of the day, it's a very difficult situation, because of course a company has invested on something, and therefore, however, you know, in today, in the fast pace of the global competition, I see really the challenge of, you know, of somehow protect your know-how, but to share what you can do in the outside community, you know, foster this collaboration.
Yeah, maybe I would just add, I mean, something that I reflected on many years ago was that when you imagine company A and company B working in the same industry, right? Of course, you know, they have their intellectual property, and of course they're not going to collaborate, etc. You know, but right, they probably won't do that on the 10% of what they do, which is where they absolutely compete, right? But they will do it on the 90% of things that are not core, right? Like, you know, anything else, processes, payment scheme, global remuneration, you know, whatever it is for executives, forums, lobbies, etc. You know, so when we look at the intellectual property or business, it doesn't. If you look at the European Commission or you look at the ESA or any organisation, there are some things that are off limits, right? But not much actually. There's a lot that's not off limits, but we tend to, because we have this let's say obsession with control or whatever, we tend to put things into the mix of secret or something when they don't need to be, you know, just to be on the safe side or something.
It's a very difficult question, the commercial aspects versus the public good aspects. And it was even raised in the newspapers a couple of days ago, whether the pharmaceutical companies should give their intellectual property for COVID free of charge to the planet. I mean, this is a very difficult area. Where I would like to add is I feel that we're living in an industrial economy where the economics are very much about scarcity of resources and competition. And we've had various instruments to help those protect their intellectual property, not least patents and copyrights and the thing. But in the knowledge economy, as we like to call it, it's not so much working, it's driven by collaboration, as Paul was saying. And I'm encouraged by some of the new instruments that are coming along. And Gianluigi mentioned blockchain, and there's a lot of good work going on now in using blockchain as a way to secure immutable ledgers, to secure better, to protect better. And I think that we're now not only talking about an Internet of Things, but we are increasingly talking about an Internet of Assets and the way we create value from those assets and the way we protect that value when we need to or share as much. It's really about knowing when best to share and when best to protect. But I'm not so much convinced that it's either or, but it's a both and strategies are very much having to look at that. I'm going to go to another question. I'd like to bring in another question, if I may. Let's have a look. Is there, Paul Robbins, is there a separation of knowledge relating to process and concept as opposed to technical facts in the standard?
Maybe I can take this one.
Yes.
I mean, for us, knowledge is really what is beyond what is written in the, in the process and the concept. It's really, at the end of the day, we make a very simple example, I mean, you have the temperature, which is the data. You have the information that the temperature is rising. It can be an information. What do you have to do? Follow. That is really the knowledge. And the question is, so in our knowledge and retention and transfer, what we do, it's really to try to map the knowledge or the competence of our colleagues and try really to see what is unique and what is at risk, what is not documented. Because if it's something documented and these colleagues just following the procedure, it's not a critical asset that the agency lose or a team lose. The critical asset is someone, for instance, dealing with there is a former minister of Claudia Agneret, the first female astronaut. And we are just about to finish her knowledge retention. But the area which she brings on the table, which is not the one that you expect, for instance, how to manage complex project with a Russian, for instance. She's been living a lot. And these are, let's say, the knowledge that we try to receive, to attain is her perspective on the diversity across the years, how she was experienced being the first female astronaut. The process, the fact are there, are stored So, but we want to go really beyond that and to have really what is this person's perspective on the view that she has, of course, which doesn't represent the agency perspective. It's really as a human being, as an individual, as a professionist that have been working with us.
Thank you, Gianluigi. I see we're out of time, so I would very much like to thank everybody, their contribution. Paul, Gianluigi, thank you very much. Helena, BSI, thank you for inviting us to give our perspectives. And I would like to thank the participants for your questions and for your interest. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Paul and Gianluigi. That was really interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.